Welcome to podcast number 491 of Get Paid for Your Pad, SDR Conversations. We are your hosts, Jasper Rubbers and Mr. Eric Muller. And we got some exciting announcements for you guys today because we have officially, can I say it yet?
You can say it, Jasper. Drop the
Let's
news.
do it. We have officially opened the doors for class number 4 of the Legends X program. Enrollment is officially open as of today. Boom.
Boom. This is where we need a producer dropping like background noise and like, that ding, 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 that whole thing. But yeah,
well,
doors are open, man. I'm freaking excited.
Yeah, we'll get there with the producer for sure. This is the fourth class that we're opening up for Legends X. So on this podcast, we're gonna give you guys a quick recap of what the program is about, who it is for, what our students have experienced, some learning lessons from us as well, as because the students are not the only ones learning. We've been learning a lot through this process as well, so we want to share that with everybody. We'll let you know how to apply, how you can be part of it. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff to go through. So let's dive right in. If you're already familiar with Legends X and you're just waiting to jump in there, just go to strlegends.com/x. We have all the information out there. All right, let's dive in. Legends X. What is Legends X?
Oh, Legends X. Man, can you believe we're on class 4 already? It's that's crazy. That's crazy.
Time flies.
Yeah, time flies. Yeah, we built this. Obviously, this was like our brainchild through COVID. We built this to specifically try to help the people in our industry, in our community, stay afloat during COVID, but then also position themselves to take advantage of post-COVID growth. And yeah, super proud of it, man. Like, I'm super proud of what we created here. So as most people know, Legends X is our 90-day accelerator program for short-term rental hosts. And who we really specialize on helping is that host that's running anywhere between 1 and upwards of 40 short-term rental listings that are in that position, what's called the hectic host. And really helping them, like if they feel like they're working way too much in their business, we're going to support them on working on their business versus in their business. That's the quick summary of the whole thing. And after like getting our students' feedback, like that's always been like the biggest win for most of our students is like they finally figured out how to think about working on their business versus in it, right? Because I don't know about you, man, but like, especially in the early stages of overnight success, we spent so much time working in the business and we're still very in our business as we're scaling it, but it's such a different mindset now. Once we learn systems, once we learn delegation and people and the whole thing, just like we're able to do a lot more and scale a lot more because we understand those fundamentals, right? So yeah, Legends X is really for that host that wants to grow a real short-term rental company, but just needs help on understanding the brand and the vision of what they're actually building, the operations, understanding how to build a system, implementing systems, hiring people, the whole thing, and then ultimately how to scale on that foundation. What's Legends X to you? What's anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I mean it's so many different things that I was really curious what your summary was going to be. But I would say what's really unique about Legends X is everything that you said. But in my opinion, like what's really unique about Legends X is that it's very different from any other course out there, because we built the program to maximize the amount of students that would finish and complete the course. Because I think one thing that you and I both recognize is like it's not fun when you sell a course and you see a student just kind of checking in for a couple of weeks and then just kind of dropping out. It's not fulfilling, right? And we're not actually really helping. It doesn't really help the students. And we saw this crazy statistic when we were building this course that only 4% of people who buy an online course actually complete it. And I'm sure you've done this. I've done it multiple times. I've probably spent between $3,000 and $5,000, if not more, on courses that I bought. And then, it's kind of go at your own pace. You buy it, you watch a couple of videos, you get distracted with something else, and before you know it, you're never looking at it again. And then you've kind of wasted that money.
Dude, I mean, we say it all the time. It's like information is not the problem, right? Like we live in an abundant, we live in an area where information is abundant, right? Everywhere. And the amount of videos being updated, like uploaded to TikTok and YouTube on teaching things is just freaking endless. So it's not the information. So like the traditional courses, and I just personally, I don't buy them anymore because like unless there's some type of implementation, community and coaching along with it, I just know like, man, I got so much stuff going on. Like it's got to be truly aligned with solving a direct problem in my life or in my business. And then number two, it has to have a timeline, implementation, coaching, and accountability community with it. Because online courses, just like I can get the 80-20 of all that by watching a 40-minute YouTube video or a 20-minute YouTube video, right? So yeah, I think like for what the biggest programs I've invested in, like $50 programs, I've invested in $20,000 programs. The ones that I get the biggest results from personally and in my business is the ones that are you have somebody with you implementing in your business. There's a timeline, there's a start and a finish to it. All these other courses that are just online, unlimited amount of like access to their videos and then a Facebook group, they work, they're very informational, but like, it's like to get the biggest impact, you need accountability, you need a deadline, you need structure in implementing it. Right. So this is why, I personally wanted to create Legends X the way that we did. And where I get so excited about it is it's not just the content that's extremely valuable, but man, the coaching and the pod structure and the start and finish line and the way that we track what students are doing and what they're not doing. And like that whole thing, it's unbelievable, man. So I love it.
That's exactly what Thomas said, who's one of our former Legends X students who was actually at the mastermind with us in Mexico a couple of weeks ago. He went through an incredible growth spurt, and he was on the podcast a week ago or so. So if you ever listened to that, check it out. It's very inspiring. But that's the one thing that he said to me. He was like, when I saw Legends X, the main reason that he wanted to join is because he knew like, hey, I'm busy. Like if I join a program and I don't have somebody who's every single week going to hold me accountable and give me crap if I don't do my homework, I'm not going to be able to do it because I'll find other things to do, and that's kind of like, that's the life of most, especially the hectic hosts, right, that are joining the program. Is the reason they didn't join the program is because they're so stuck in their business. They're so overwhelmed with all the daily tasks of running these units that, if you don't have somebody who's holding you accountable, you're not going to do all the work.
Yeah, man. I mean, just speaking from personal experience, my personal goal is to invest into a mastermind for this quarter, Q3. And I'm not going to announce the masterminds publicly, what we're looking at. If you guys are interested, just email me. I'll give you the ones that we're looking at personally. But I'm literally deciding, I'm trying to find a program, a mastermind that has the same type of elements that we built in Legends X versus the masterminds that we've been a part of, which is just like a virtual call once a week or once a month. Or just the ones that have a ton of training every single day, brand new stuff for you to learn and implement that don't really connect the dots too much. Like I'm looking for a massive structure. And I think I found one too, but it's also the community aspect. Like I think the pod structure, like to me, that is the biggest impact for a lot of our members going through this. And I'm looking for the same thing. And dude, there's not a lot out there in the world of masterminds that have, or programs like this that have a similar structure. So the elements of Legends X to me is pretty powerful, especially for the operator that's stuck in their business.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the the community aspect is huge. I was just talking to one of my friends last week who has run multiple startups, and as we were talking about Legends X, he was telling me, he was like, "Well, if you run a startup, you have there's a lot of support. You can join all these different
Mhm.
accelerators and communities and stuff." And then he was saying like, "Well, as an Airbnb host, like you know, most Airbnb hosts, they're not really like typical startups where you get investment capital, stuff like that. Almost everybody just rolls into it kind of accidentally, right?
Yeah.
And before you know it, you find yourself not being an Airbnb host but being an entrepreneur essentially. And who are you going to talk to about your business? Like, who do you know that's also in that same spot? And that's why everybody feels, and that's what we hear from our students a lot, is they feel like they're on a lonely island. They're alone trying to figure this stuff out, and it's not easy, right? I mean, I don't know about you. You've been an entrepreneur for all your life. I've been in corporate, and I would say, it was much harder to be successful as an entrepreneur than to be successful in corporate,
Dude, it's
right?
such a
It's
lonely game.
yeah,
It's such a lonely game. And yeah, I was just thinking about that too, like, because we're doing a bunch of interviews right now for both companies essentially to hire. And I'm talking to a lot of people that have a lot of different background. And the one thing that I make very clear, I'm like, hey, the entrepreneur startup world is completely different than the corporate world. And you have to find that energy in that person that's excited for that side. Right. And usually like what I found as an entrepreneur, especially now, or especially in the beginning, but I also relate to it now, is that community aspect, right? And that's why, like people who know my story, I moved from New Jersey to San Diego to live in the entrepreneur house just to surround myself with other entrepreneurs, right? And then this business, the overnight success business, all started with us you and I trying to find a community of successful short-term rental operators that we can learn from and give value to,
mm-hmm.
right? Which created the Legends Mastermind. Now we're at the point where it's like, okay, we want to give that same type of learning lessons to the people in our sphere, right? So for
Yeah.
Legends X, and I think that community aspect of the pods, and then the community aspect of the class, the cohort as a whole, the 30 to 50 students that go through that, man, the power that comes out of that is incredible. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm excited for this, man. So, and then, and we can talk about this here in a second, but like really watching the host go from that hectic host spot, right? Remember when we were creating the 5 stages of hosting and really just trying to understand like what is the natural progression of a short-term rental host? And then we found that hectic host spot, and like the people who recognize where they're at in that stage, there's just a couple of things for them to pull on and implement in their business, and they immediately see a massive change. And that's the one thing I'm most excited about with these cohorts, is seeing that change in the operator.
Yeah, 100%. Then I think it'll be useful to quickly go through the 5 stages of hosting. So the first stage is the transitional host, right? It's the person who's renting out a room, it's renting out, maybe one listing, and that's usually how people start, right? Even if you ask around in our mastermind, a lot of people started kind of coincidentally by by running into Airbnb coincidentally, and then they see the opportunity and they start adding more listings, and that's how they get started. So almost everybody starts as a traditional house.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, so let me break down the 5 stages of hosting, because I think this is really helpful for a lot of people to understand where they're at in the hosting journey. And what that does is help them decide what do they have to implement in their business to get to the next level, right? So we have 5 stages of like the natural progression of a host. Stage 1 is what we call the traditional host, what you were just chatting about. Traditional host in our eyes is somebody who has 1 listing. They may have 2 listings or whatever, but their identity is embedded in the hosting experience, right? So the easiest way to explain this is think of think of the early stages of Airbnb when, the host was so involved in the check-in process, or probably even living in the house and renting out an extra bedroom or their back house or something like that, right? It's like their identity is in there. They're not really focused on growing a business. They just want to make the extra cash that's coming in, right? Stage 2 is the side hustle host, right? The side hustle host is someone they see that short-term rentals is a really good avenue to make some money. So, and what I noticed too is like a lot of people can start in the side hustle host position, right? They come in, and that was kind of like me. I didn't start hosting in traditional. I started hosting as a side hustle, right? I went in and said, hey, I'm going to build a business around Airbnb. I'm going to have a handful of these things and see what it turns into. And then it turned into what we're doing now, right? Which is crazy to think about. But a side hustle host is someone who looks at Airbnb and short-term rentals as a pure way of generating income. They have 2 or more listings, and they're really focused on running it as a business. And sometimes it may or may not be their direct focus in life. They may have another job or another business, but this is just a way that they can make extra cash, or they're planning on developing a real business. Right. And what we found is like those hosts, they're somewhat committed to it. They're somewhat not. They're the hosts that we call like the list it and forget it hosts, the guys and gals who just kind of put minimal, sometimes they put minimal effort into the listing and communication, and they don't want to be involved in the hospitality side. They just want to run and make money on Airbnb. Right. Then we see stage 3. Stage 3 is where I was at for a very long time until I figured out how to implement the VOS system, which is what we teach in Legends X, right? But what I found and let me know if this, if you see something different here, feel free to add to it. But the hectic host stage, that stage 3, those are like the real entrepreneurs. Those are the entrepreneurs that say, okay, short-term rentals, this is my thing. I'm building this business. They may or may not be in the business 100%, because I still see some hectic hosts that they may have a second business or trying to transition out of a job to run their business full-time, but they're fully committed to this short-term rental business. They have multiple listings, 2 or more, 3 or more listings. They now the business relies on them 100%. These are the people that feel like their job is like this business has turned into a second job that's 24/7. Customer service, they're kind of heading it up and dealing with all of that. They're running their business based off of memory, no real systems, all of that. This is a spot where I see a lot of hosts, they can get stuck in this hectic host spot, stage 3, this could be the lifetime of their business, right? And we see it all the time. And like the best way to think about that is like, think of a realtor for friends here in the States. Think of a realtor who's been like a realtor for a long time, who is like, there's no real business. He or she is by herself. She does well, they make money, but they're never really scaling out. They seem hectic all the time and crazy all the time, but they're always doing business, right? It's kind of like that hectic host spot. These are the people that we really specialize in helping, right? Because like we can show them how to remove themselves from a lot of the tasks by building systems and delegating to the right people and hiring the right people and building SOPs in their business. Then we move them to stage 4. And that's the goal of the program. To go from stage 3 to stage 4 is what we call the rising host, the rising star. These are the hosts that become the CEOs of their business now. So they're thinking through systems, they're thinking through hiring people, delegating people. They've done that in their business, but the business still relies upon them. But they're at that point where they're able to really break through and they're truly scaling their business. They see success in their company and their effort outside of their hours that they put into it, right? And then stage 5 is what we call the legend, right? The legend is someone who is running 100 plus listings. Typically that's what we see, but that depends on where you are. It doesn't really matter the amount of numbers, but you're acting as a true CEO of your company. Your company's doing a couple of million a year. You're scaling, you understand your numbers, you understand how to hire, and you're growing and running a real company that is bigger than you, right? So that is a very short and long explanation of what the 5 stages of hosting are, but I think it's really important for people to understand where they're at so they can make decisions on what they need in their business to move them forward. Versus if you're a side hustle host, there's no reason to start thinking about what you need to implement in your business as a legend, because there's so many different steps and milestones that you have to achieve. So that's a big part of what we bring in that I'm excited about. What we bring in the Legends X program is helping people understand that, not only implement it.
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of see the program as almost like it's more like a business course. It's more like a how to build your business course that's tailored to the short-term rental niche, right? Because it's just so interesting that I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and I recognize that the challenges that a hectic host runs into is the same. They're the same challenges that entrepreneurs in other industries are also running into. Because I've talked to several of my friends who, after I described Legends X to them, they're kind of interested in joining, even though they have nothing to do with Airbnb. They don't host. They're in a completely different niche, but which is interesting. I think in every industry, that's just part of the entrepreneurial journey, that you start doing everything yourself, and then you're running in this position where it becomes overwhelming. It's not fun anymore. The reason why you started it was because you were passionate about something and you want to help people and solve a problem. But now it becomes so overwhelming, that's just not fun anymore. And what I see is that hectic hosts you can only be in a hectic host for so long, because eventually you're gonna quit. Yeah, because it's not sustainable.
Yeah, dude. And like, to your point too, man, like that was the biggest aha for me over the last few years, is recognizing that regardless of what business or industry that you're in, and I say it all the time to our students, like regardless if you're McDonald's, Marriott, or Bob's Cottage Rentals, right? Like it's all the same stuff. It's people, strategy, process, and profit, right? It's like, how do you grow your business based on those items, right? And it's like every single company needs these processes where it's like a clear understanding of who we are, who we serve, the customer's problem, like all of that. At McDonald's has it, and the hectic host has it, right? We have to understand those elements, right? And then we have, okay, now that we understand what we're building, who we're serving, the problems we're solving, the culture we want to create, like the what does it look like and the why behind it. Once we get that, then we have to turn that into an actual machine, because you have to operate it at the end of the day, right? And it's like, all that comes down to is like, and the level of scale only comes down to the ability to get things off of your desk and more reliant on quality people and quality systems. If it's reliant upon you as a host, you can grow a good business. You can have like a sole proprietorship, like an individual business where you're making a few $100,000 a year, you're living comfortable, blah, blah, blah. That's totally possible. And that's freaking awesome if that's what you want. But if you truly want to scale a business, you have to understand the fundamentals of systems and people and process, and like getting yourself out of the way. And then lastly, is you need a good strategy to truly scale your business, right? You need that process, that strategy in place to understand, okay, now that we know who we are, what we're serving, we have the machine there that's running. How do I just feed it? How do I throw gasoline onto this fire that's already working and grow this thing, right?
Yeah.
No matter who you are, McDonald's, Marriott, or Jasper's short-term rental listings in Amsterdam, it's all the same stuff, right? And once you recognize that, and that's one of the biggest things that, we teach in the program, right? What we call the VOS system. So let's talk about that for a little bit, right? Of like why that's important and how that impacts our hosts and students. But like, once I understood the VOS system and I broke that down and I started implementing that in my short-term rental business, started scaling very quickly. And what I say by scaling is like minimizing problems that I had to deal with personally, right? So it was scalable. And now we're implementing the VOS into FreeWild, right? A little bit slower than what we want, because we have two businesses that we're growing, which is not the easiest thing in the world. But it's all the same stuff. It's the same processes, same system. So let's touch on the VOS system a bit.
Yeah. What's interesting about the VOS is that a lot of students, when they come into a program, they want to go straight to the S. They want to go straight to scaling, right? Because in their mindset, it's like, okay, I need more listings, I need to make more money, and that's what I need. But then when you talk to the students after the program, the vision, and then for some people it's they understand that they need the operation, so they'll come and say like, okay, I get it, I need some systems and then I can scale. But there's very few students that understand that before we even start building systems, we have to figure out exactly what we want to build, right?
Yeah.
So we have to start with vision. And a lot of students will say after the program, they'll say, that was the part that I didn't know that I needed.
Right. Right. Well, dude, nobody does. Like everyone think, and we just so when this comes out live, we have just finished our workshop that we're doing, right? Thursday. So this would have been yesterday for people that are listening to this on Friday. That's the whole, that's one big part of that workshop, is really helping people understand Airbnb is not your business model, right? Airbnb is just a marketing channel to your business model. And then once you recognize that, you're like, okay, well, what business am I actually in? I'm in the hospitality industry. What does that mean? We're solving problems for people. Well, what people? All people or a certain type of person? All problems? Like, holy crap, how am I going to do that? Right. And then we start niching down to the vision of your company. And that's one of the biggest things that people come to us all the time, like, hey, just teach me how to get more listings. Okay, well, what kind of listings? Who are you serving with those listings? What markets? What systems do you have in place to support you on these? And I ask the question all the time for the people who apply for Legends X. It's like, if I were to give you 20 listings right now, what would that do to your business? Right. And everyone without a doubt always says, well, it would crash my business. I can't take that on. I don't have the systems. I don't have the people. Right. So we'll get to that in a second, but the vision is always the most important part, because we got to recognize who we are as a company, what problems we're solving for our guests, who are our guests, the whole thing. What is the culture of our company? Where are we going with this at the end of the day? Do we want to sell this company for the ultimate payday? Do we want to build a legacy company to where our grandkids can see what we're building today? Like, that's freaking awesome. Or do we want to do what you did in the beginning and build a lifestyle business that pays you to invest into your family or travel or whatever you want, right? We got to answer those questions. And that's really freaking hard work, because you got to stop, and you don't get results from that right away. That ROI takes a long time, where entrepreneurs, they get immediate satisfaction from going out and finding a new property and putting it up on Airbnb. Look how successful I am. Look what I just did. I got an immediate reaction to it, right? So we start with the VOS, right? We start with the vision of the VOS. We get super clear on the vision of the company first. Once we get super clear on the vision, and we understand everything I just mentioned, then the idea is like, okay, how do I turn this vision into a machine? And that is just as difficult as developing your vision, right? If not more difficult, because you have to build systems are never ending, right? When you build a system, you have to build it, and then you have to maintain it, and you have to improve it. You have to break it. You have to rebuild it. You have to train people on it. And it's a never ending thing. So if we know that, it's like, okay, how do I simplify that approach? How do I start thinking in ways of systems? And I don't know about you, man, but I find it in every aspect of my life. I have systems around everything now. Samantha just like freaks out. She's like, can we just flow and not have any structure? And I'm like, yeah, sure. On Sundays, I'm down for that. But, yeah, so the operational side, we go deep into like teaching the students how to think through systems, how to implement our playbook, which has been like one of the most powerful things in the program. And then how to implement the actual systems that we have into their business. On top of that is how to hire the right people for your culture and your business that believe in the vision that you just created, right? Versus just hiring anybody who's just the cheapest, who say they can do something. It's like, no, we're going to hire the best people that believe in our mission and want to support developing this thing, who bring different skill sets. So we teach that whole aspect. And once we get the vision, the foundation built, then we go to scale, which is really the strategy on how to grow your business, right? And how to grow your brand equity in the guest eyes, and then how to build a process to continue to onboard properties. So vision, operation, scale. Once I recognized that in my business, I was able to turn that into a process where we were bringing on the right properties that were driving the right solutions for our guests, driving the right profitability, the whole thing, and it was scalable for us, right?
Yeah.
We do all that within 90 days, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? But it's been successful. So yeah, that's the VOS system. I think it's going to really impact people's lives.
Yeah. Well, we've been seeing that, right? With the 127 companies that have gone through the program now. I actually went through all of the feedback from all of our students just to get an idea of like what are people learning in this program? What are the biggest results that they're getting, and put together some numbers. First of all, we had almost every single company completed the program. We had a couple people who got sick during the program, so they weren't able to finish it, but everybody else finished it. And just during the programs, over 200 new listings were added to the portfolios. Over $2 million of revenue was created, and seven people have quit their job during Legends X, which that's one of my favorite results. As somebody who's quit my job, and I know how scary that is, and I know how much benefit I've gotten from making that decision. That's just something that I'm really passionate about, is when people have the guts to say, you know what, I'm going all into this business with the vision that they create through the program. They have the confidence to say, all right, I'm finally stepping away from that 9-to-5 job that I'm not excited about, and I'm stepping fully into my business.
I love it, man. Yeah, and that number is going to tick up at the end of this month, because we have Tom officially leaving his job. His boss convinced him to stay for an additional couple of months, but he made that decision and put in his request to leave through the program. So super pumped about that, man. Yeah. So, I mean, 127 companies we have, and I wanted to point out the completion rate here, right? So what we said in the beginning was like, most online courses, only 4% of people complete an online course, where our accelerator, Legends X 90-day accelerator, we have a 98% success rate at this point, right? Which is incredible. And, as we grow this, our goal is try to keep that number as high as possible, right? But I think that's so incredible to see, because that's what we wanted to disrupt within the industry. So, yeah, man. So let's talk about, so I gotta wrap up here in a second, unfortunately. So let's talk about the application process, because I'd love for anyone who's interested in this to have a chance to chat with me. So this is the last time that I'm personally speaking to everybody on the phone. We are bringing on new team members to help us with all the applications that are coming in. So I'm excited for this round, man. Class 4 is like, I'm going to be speaking to every single student that we bring into this program, which I'm freaking pumped about. So the process is for anyone who's like, hey, this sounds interesting, or hey, this is a hell yes, I need to be involved in this program to impact my business. Go to strlegends.com/X, strlegends.com/X. The application literally takes less than 7 minutes to go through. We ask very, very specific questions about your business, your goals, and your challenges. And then from there, you're going to set up a 30 to 40-minute call with me directly over the next couple of weeks, where I go through the actual application with you. And my goal there, and this is something that I've said multiple times, we don't just allow anybody in the program who can afford it, right? Or we're not trying to convince you to go out and remortgage your house so you can afford a program or whatever else. I'm literally looking for the right people that we can bring through to continue to get the results that we've been getting, right? With the last 3 classes. So I'm literally going through this strategy call with you to understand what is your true challenges, what do you actually need in your business, and where we're going with this. And then if it's a good alignment, we'll extend one of the invitations that we have out for you to join. So, and we'll go through all the programs. So yeah, guys, we're looking for 40 students for this class. That's our goal for this class. Actually, so go to strlegends.com and just send in an application. And if it's right for you, we'll jump on a call and we'll go through that. We'll make a decision. This class starts August 22nd, right? Yep. So we have some onboarding, we have some training to do before you guys get kicked off. So try to send your application in as soon as possible. And we're going to make a decision on that call to move forward or not. But let's close it out with this one last part, man. I think this is exciting news to mention about our coaches for this round. Mm-hmm. Right. So we have the online accelerator that students go through, which is videos and trainings, and it includes systems and implementation, all of that. We have the pods that we assign our students a pod that have anywhere between 7 and 10, depending on what you're in, students going through the program with you at the exact same time. But then we pair the pod with a 7-figure short-term rental coach, right? And dude, I am so freaking pumped for the coaches that we have in this round. So since you are the head coach of the program, why don't you explain a little bit of who our coaches are on this round, and maybe a little bit of what they've done in the industry.
Yeah, 100%. We couldn't have wished for better coaches, as you said. These people were literally at the top of our list. We made a dream coaches list. First off, Rebecca Slivka, she's been on the podcast. She's a rock star in the space. Not only did she grow her short-term rental management company to over 100 units in Los Angeles, she also started buying boutique hotels. One of them being Hicksville Trader Palace. You've stayed there. I've just seen the pictures, but it looks incredible. Incredible place.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. Joshua Tree, and she has some other awesome projects coming up in the near future as well.
Yeah, and Rebecca has been in our mastermind, STR Legends mastermind, since the beginning, and we noticed. From the moment she joined, we noticed like how she was always like just giving the most on point advice to our other mastermind members. So when we saw that, we were like, okay, this is the person that we need for this program. And then we have Jorge, who's joining this class that we're extremely excited about as well. He sold his management company to Facasa, and then joined Facasa, and is now responsible for the entire country of Costa Rica with over 500 listings under his responsibility.
Even more, he just expanded. Now he's responsible for Costa Rica, Mexico, Belize, and I believe that's what he's focused on now. And then he's essentially going to be the spearhead for Vicasa expansion inside of Central America, which is freaking awesome. And this dude is, I mean, he's, I can do a whole podcast on how incredible of a human being he is. He really took care of me when I was in a really tough spot in Costa Rica, which is for a whole nother podcast. But he's just such an incredible person, extremely talented at what he does, and probably one of the most experienced people on our team when it comes to short-term rentals. Over 500 listings, built and sold a company. Like, this dude is next level. And he's like, hey, he came to us wanting to coach because he wants to give back to the community and be involved. So anyone who gets aligned with him and or Rebecca, just super blessed to have their time.
Absolutely. All right, man. Let's wrap this up for everybody who's listening. You can apply at strlegends.com/X. It's a very simple process. You get on a call with Eric, and then we'll take it from there. All right, man.
That's right.
That's it. Y'all. That's it for today.
Looking forward to chat with everybody, and awesome podcast, man. We'll be chatting soon.
Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back on Monday. Have a great weekend.